Addiction is a terrible thing that can ruin you. But if you find yourself playing video games too much, at least they can offer you something in return. It's like the movie Groundhog Day. You're not making progress in reality, but you can make progress in yourself. I'm going to share the main thing I found getting good at a game and the journey it helped me to take from addiction to redemption. And it's in this journey the main thing I have to offer, and it's why you should face reality again. Hello, my name is Hale. I grew up on a farm in Arkansas where we mostly grow trees, and it was started by my great-grandfather, and a good way to describe him, he was a fair man, he hated everyone equally. But there were only two things you needed for him to hire you. Just had to be a hard worker and be extremely competent. This was a great recipe for the farm, having a lot of great men work it back in the day, and their stories fascinated me as a kid, and the one that stuck out the most was the day Johnny Mac died. Now, Johnny was a beast. He had a six-pack in his 60s. There's one story where he slipped and cut his arm open on his axe, and he tied his sweat rag around it to stop the bleeding enough so he could finish the day. He was an absolute legend. Well, he and another man were cutting timber across the river, and Johnny crossed over in a boat alone so he could be cutting ahead while the other man drove the truck down to the bridge and came back on the other side. And while Johnny was over there, a large white oak limb broke out and hit him on the head and killed him on the spot. And as a kid, I built this dream world around that story that crossing the river was really crossing over into another realm. I called it the deep, where all the greats from the farm worked and fought, and one day I'm going to cross over there and save them and save the farm and be the hero. And when I got out of high school, I joined my dad logging the place, and after a few years on a chainsaw, I decided to go to college. I thought I was supposed to be ahead of where I was, and I desperately wanted to be that hero that crossed the river, and I felt everyone thought I was supposed to be that person. And surprise, I couldn't live up to this expectation I had. And I couldn't face the failure of not being that person, and put together with the uncertainty of what I really wanted, and the loans especially, I started playing video games more, escaping reality, when I found World of Warcraft. It was my first online game. I made some friends, joined their guild, and after my first raid night, that was it, dog. I drank Manoroth's blood. I dropped out of college and lied to my family about it so I could sit there and play WoW 24/7 for a year. Now, I couldn't lie or hide in WoW. Other players will hunt you down in the logs, meters, any data available of your gameplay. It will be used to determine exactly how garbage you are. And I needed this. It didn't allow delusion. It was just me at the bottom of the meters with no excuses. That needing to be a hero and thinking too highly of myself gets replaced with humility, which is the best thing I took from WoW. It freed me from insecurity to embrace embarrassment, and I started reaching out and asking questions, being openly bad, to find what I needed to be a better raider. You're exposing weakness so it can be seen, and now it can be fixed. Realizing I'm nobody special helped me to see and find greatness in others, and eventually I became a hero in my guild by not needing to be one, and it was really me. From the logs to taking more responsibilities, it pointed to the better player I was and the better person I could be, all because I found and maintained humility. I was one of the worst WoW players you could find when I started, and by the end of my run, I was one of the best players on my server. But my time came to an end. I ran out of money, and back to the farm I went. And all I had was this humility and a new dream. And it wasn't being the hero anymore. Now it was, if I ever got to meet those great men that worked the farm, if I could just stand in front of them and not feel ashamed. I had to leave the woods one day and head to this shop in a little dead-end community. The tractor had broken down, and I didn't have the tools or parts to fix it, of course. And I was there just over an hour, and when I was heading back, a tree had fallen across the road since I'd been through earlier. And everyone had just got off work and out of school, so there was at least 12 cars and a school bus. Probably half this community is on this road in the 105-degree heat. And I'm the only vehicle going my direction, so I just pull right up to the tree, and I'm in a foul mood. I remember thinking 6 pickup trucks and no men since they didn't have chainsaws. But anyway, I cut the tree up, and it went perfect. 3 quick cuts, rolled it off the road in under 5 minutes. And as I put my chainsaw away, I could hear some honking and cheering, but I'm still mad, so I didn't look. But as I got in my truck, I could see they were all excited, so I just tried to give a quick little wave, little head nod, and they were not having it. They were not having my grumpiness. That school bus of kids was freaking out. I don't know exactly what in the world they was doing, but they were happy. These two old ladies blew me a kiss and asked if I was taking wife applications. These people were determined that I would receive their appreciation, and this caused something to click in me, and I was suddenly transported back to when I returned from college. But first, there's someone I need to make you aware of, and you've already heard a story with him in it. He's the 16-year-old that was driving the truck and found Johnny Mac, my dad. Now, by that time, he was already an old hand. He started working the farm since he was tall enough to reach the pedals on a tractor, and not a cute father bringing his son to work day thing. He'd be sent to do a job, and if he came back and it wasn't done, he better have a good reason. And he's sent to do these jobs by a father he had to call by first name. He couldn't call him dad. He ran his first chainsaw at 14 when Tom hurt his back, and he went to college too, except he didn't drop out to play video games. He went to Vietnam. He turned down a Purple Heart because he didn't feel he deserved it, but mainly it was because he didn't want his mother worrying more than she already was. Finished his service, finished college, then came back to the farm, responsible for it still existing more than once. Worked for less than he needed, never had good equipment, the champion of making do with what you have, indentured to the blood, sweat, and tears that have been spilled on the farm of which he's too familiar. And he's been across the river in the deep since he was 16 and found that father figure dead. He's that hero I would pretend to be when I was a kid, and I'm telling you all this about him so you know his authority. Now, when he found out about my lies, he came and got me, brought me back home, gave me a job back on the saw, didn't say a word. And finally one day I broke down out in the woods. I wasn't able to see a way back or see a way forward, and he stood there with me while I was venting and apologizing and promising these big things I'm going to do to try to make it up to him. And I remember I didn't want to stop talking because I had no idea what he was going to say. And I was on the edge, man. A harsh word from him could have sent me to my grave. But finally I stopped talking, and he told me the best thing I could do for him and everyone is to take care of myself. He said, don't worry about other people. Don't worry about making it up to him. Worry about getting better. That he believed in me and that I was good enough to get started. And I couldn't make a lot of sense of what he told me. I couldn't see what worth I had after all I'd done. However, I remember thinking, well, who am I to say otherwise? And the realization on the road cutting the tree was finally understanding what he meant. You've heard this before, no man is an island, therefore sin not to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. This poem signifies our interconnection with one another to the point that when any of us die, it's as if we have died. And I think funeral bells would have been all I could hear back at that time, and maybe you feel that way too, or you have before. However, bells ring for other reasons, sometimes for birth, for weddings, for life. And when it tolls for life just as death, it tolls for us all. Grommash Hellscream kills Manoroth, breaks the blood curse, and cries out that he freed himself, and Thrall tells him, no, you freed us all. That's it. Now I'm going to leave you with this, and it dovetails in with that poem. Martin Luther King Jr. has a great speech on YouTube called The Street Sweeper, and he talks about mastering the length of life. It's not about the big or the small. It's about being the best of whoever you are. And once you've accomplished this and had significant self-growth, you can rise above and reach out to help all of humanity. And that's mostly going to be your family, your friends, the people right around you, your immediate community. And for me, it was just months after Dad talked to me and saved my life that getting better and focusing on being the best of who I am started affecting those around me. And oddly enough, one of the first signs is I started playing WoW again, but this time responsibly for my friends because my guild needed me. And I have friends from WoW to this day. And I was there for my dad all during the time his heart was trying to kill him. And I have a phone full of family and friends that if they need something, they can call me, they trust me. And I got to help those people get home 30 minutes early out of the heat. And they helped me with their appreciation to see how far I'd come from addiction and running from reality to someone that can change an outcome and make a difference for others. And man, how good that feels. And everyone on that road benefited because I could take care of myself in my world, and I wasn't ashamed anymore. The bell is going to toll, and why it rings is up to you. Even if you're bad at a game or at life, don't let your ego, fear, or whatever reason stop you from being yourself so you can get better and be the best of whoever you are. And it can be hard to see. You know, growing up, when I dreamed about the greatest on the farm, I didn't realize I had him there with me the whole time. And truly, just like I needed him, we need you. Now, you've never heard of my dad before. He isn't famous, and I wouldn't trade him for anyone else. And I just know that some of you listening are going to be your versions of my dad. And man, what a better world this is going to be because of you. We need you, so start taking care of yourself. It's no small thing to help someone, and you're someone too. You save yourself and you save us all. I believe in you, and you are good enough to get started. Right around the time I was cutting the tree out of the road, I had the idea to start this YouTube channel when I was watching one of my favorite streamers. I'm going to talk about him, and because of this streamer, I must also discuss how to deal with going bald, because whether you know it or not, it affects all of us. But right after I start working on making videos, my world changes. An idea gets put forward. It's something I never considered possible before, losing the farm. And a decision has to be made to surrender or pull an insane move. That dream world I made as a kid, I'm about to discover its realities because it's my turn to cross the river into the deep.